Greetings, whiskey folk, and welcome to the official Dram Association unbottling of Brothers Bond Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So, gonna have a little string of 8 of these little unbottling videos because we have a tasting coming up. We have the Indy Showcase. Finally, we have another Indy Showcase tasting. It's been so long since we've done one of these. It's been, I think, pre-pandemic, so it's been 2.5, 3 years since we last had an Indy Showcase. Very excited to be doing them again. And this is where we showcase independently bottled whiskey. So that's whiskey that is bottled by a company other than the distiller. And this bottle begs an interesting question, because independently bottled whiskey is predominantly a term used to describe Scotch whiskey, right? Independent bottlers such as the S&WS, of course, I'm a big fan of, as you can see behind me. Independent bottlers such as Douglas Lang, Hunter Lang, Single Malts of Scotland, Duncan Taylor. There's so many of them. Gordon MacPhail, there's so many. And a lot of them are steeped in history, and a lot of them are quite new. It's a really interesting... interestingly diverse companies doing independent bottlings over in Scotland. But it's not a term that is used as much elsewhere. So a couple of the bottlings that we're going to do in this Indy Showcase are going to be sort of slightly questionable as whether it is actually an independent bottling, whether it's Indy. And I thought we'd start off with a particularly interesting and slightly questionable whiskey, Brothers Bond. Now, it is a well-known adage that even a broken clock is right twice a day. And this is one of those things where I feel really weird about saying how much I love this bourbon. I've only had it once, so it might have just been that I was in a good mood that day. I'm not sure, we're about to find out. But I came away from tasting this thinking, this is ridiculous, this is incredible. And I pre-ordered a couple of cases of it. I don't think I even asked what the price was going to be. I mean, it's imported by Authentic, so I knew that they were going to price it correctly, so I had no worries there. I don't normally buy things without knowing the price. But yeah, it's really bloody good. And the reason I was saying the whole broken clock right twice a day thing is that the biggest reason most people are going to buy this whiskey, I assume, is the fact that it's made by 2 actors who were on a TV show together. They're called Vampire Diaries. I've never watched it. I've only honestly vaguely heard of it. I don't know either of the actors. Their names, I've got them. I've got the Strath website loaded on my phone here, so I can look up information. Their names are Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley, and they played the leading characters, the Salvatore brothers. The show lasted 8 years. Apparently, it is still really popular. There's a lot of quite rabid fans out there, so it's kind of cool that they made this whiskey. There's a whole story about how they wanted to continue their friendship after the show, and honestly, it's quite cute. But it's good. It's really bloody good. But they don't make it themselves, obviously. They're a couple of actors. They're not distillers. They're not brewers. They sourced the whiskey, and one of the key places to source good quality whiskey in the US is MGP. Now, MGP stands for, and I always get this wrong, so I'll double check, Midwest Grain Products, which is cool. And they don't hide that on here. They don't outright say MGP, but they say, distilled in Indiana, which is a bit of a giveaway. And then if you go online, it's a well-known fact that this is MGP's bourbon, which is super cool. And in fact, I think our website even, goes into that. It's a blend of 4 MGP mash bills that combine together to form a true 4-grain bourbon. The net effect as a spirit was 65% corn, 22% rye, with wheat and malted barley making up the rest. The fermentation is performed with a proprietary yeast via the sour mash process. So it's sour mash bourbon as well, which is kind of cool. It's column distilled, aged for a minimum of 4 years, and interestingly, it's in new oak, with a number 4 char stave, but a number 2 char head, which is quite odd. I really like that little attention to detail. Like, why not have both? But yeah, I really, really enjoy this bottle. The first time I had it, let's see if it rings true again. There is a little neck tag here, which I started to read just before this video, and really adds another dimension to this that I didn't know about either. So they went to the effort of writing this out. They signed it, but they didn't write the names, so no one can actually tell what the names are. Ian Somerhalder and Paul Wesley. There's a tip for you. Next print, actually put your names in, because your signatures are a little too signatory. Brothers Bond is a story of time and quality, two things we all cherish in life. We feel each moment of our friendship has led us here to create this exceptional bourbon that we are thrilled to share with you. We're giving back a portion of profits to support regenerative agriculture and farming practices to slow climate change by sequestering carbon whilst producing oxygen. By purchasing a bottle of our handcrafted bourbon, you're also helping to make the world a better place, one drink at a time, and for that we thank you. So that's something I didn't even know about. So that's an added interesting, cool fact of this. In fact, it was even printed on recycled paper, it says at the back. So kudos to the Bourbon Brothers, the Brothers Bond Bourbon people. Yeah. All right, no time like the present. Let's see if I like it as much the second time around. I'm really interested to throw this into a blind indie tasting. I don't know what people are going to think about this whiskey. Like I said, they are predominantly Scotch single malt tastings. We've had a couple of grains, but we've never quite thrown anything as wild as this in. Nice pop. Nice glug. Looks like a bourbon, smells like a bourbon. It's soft and it's wheated. It smells like I often do this, and I find myself thinking maybe I shouldn't at times compare brands to other brands, especially ones that are like cult classics. This, to me, smells like like one of the higher end Buffalo Trace products. Like, if you were to pour me a glass of this and say, hey, I got this new version of E.H. Taylor or Weller or, you know, one of those kind of ones, I'd be like, oh, cool, nice, yeah, it falls in line. It's soft, spicy, complex, grain-driven. Yeah, it definitely grain-driven, but in a really nice way. And, you know, I am all aboard this grain train. That's a fun name. I might call it that, grain train. I have to make nicknames for the tasting so that when we're tasting them blind, we can refer to them by something. Yeah, grain train. I like it. All aboard the grain train. Yeah, it is. It's still good. It's not aggressive. It's the legal minimum. It's 40% alcohol, 80 proof. A nice, just straight bourbon whiskey. Yeah, I am still very happy I brought this in. I'm still very confused that it's a celebrity whiskey, which, again, most of them are rubbish. It's got to be honest, especially the American ones. But yeah, well done to the vampire people. You've done well, vampire people. I'm proud of you. A nice orange and grapefruit rind hit on the back end. It plays nicely with the grain notes and adds a tinge of bitterness to it, which is quite playful. It's got sort of an Amaro aftertaste. Almost Chinoto-esque. Yeah, that is a bloody good bourbon. Yeah. Assuming it didn't just sell out straight away in the tasting, there should be some available right now at stratliquor.com, and if there isn't, I'll get more, because I believe there's still plenty in the warehouse. And it's $75 before the discount, so sub 70 after 10% off. It's going to be like $68 or something. That's bloody good. And that's one thing you can always guarantee with bourbon, not guarantee, more common with bourbon, is a good value proposition. Obviously with the rare and collectible ones, that goes downhill very quickly. But with like reasonable bourbons that are still often really good, the value proposition on that is great. Sub $70 for this whiskey. Bargain. /bar. See you on the next one.